Hello, and good morning. Happy Friday. I got the chat back into the window. It was so I had it on this scene the entire time, and then I completely forgot that it was underneath the display. So of course it wasn't doing any good for anybody. But now you can actually watch chat and see if I respond to something, why I'm just suddenly responding to it, or why maybe I just suddenly go quiet and have to go ban somebody for trying to sell me followers. But let's go ahead and take a look at where we're at. So yesterday, after the stream, or I guess let's recap where we left off. So we had set up brooksbuild.com, a domain, a certificate. The certificate verification was just taking a really long time, and it went ahead and sent a message. It eventually verified around 20 minutes later. So yeah, definitely too long for the stream. So then I decided I really wanted to get www.brooksbuilds.com also in there. So I went ahead and added an ACM for that. I added routes in Route 53 to point to the Cloudfront distribution. Let's see, what else did I do? I think those are like the biggest things, because like that was just waiting a really long time. And then there was just little tiny things where it's like, oh, these weren't made in exactly the right order. And then the final one, which took me way too long to figure out, was like, why isn't it working? Why can't I see even an error message when I go to brooksbuilds.com? So it turns out that you need to put a deployed or whatever true to have it actually work. So yeah, we then mark it as deployed, and there we go for that. Let's see. So I think that's basically everything. So if we take a look at our code, let's see what our big things are. For our domain, I discovered that instead of creating a separate domain, because I try to do that, a separate ACM to try to do that for www, you actually add that into this one certificate. Because apparently we can only add a single certificate to Cloudfront. So that was sort of important to get. Second, let's see. All of this stuff is pretty much the same. I did have to enable true that. That's what I was talking about, where it didn't enable, which was not great. And then I created these two records. So these are Alias Records inside of Route 53. So Alias Records are a little bit interesting. They're not real DNS, but they kind of are at the same time. Now, the alias part of it is basically giving permission to AWS to make it more of a software DNS. And when I say software, because DNS is still just software in the end. It's not like it's hardware or something. When I talk about like software, I mean at a much higher level stack-wise than you normally have like a DNS routing layer. It basically, traffic comes in, it looks at that and then says, oh, this is where you're going to go, and then it routes it off. So basically, AWS gets to set the destination is going to be to one of their servers. I don't get to touch it. I don't know what it is. They then, through software, say, ooh, you're going to this thing. And then it basically does a, funny reroute magic behind the scenes to like make it look like it's normal DNS. That is cheaper for me because I don't have to pay for TTL type stuff, which is really nice. So I get instantaneous changes in DNS. If I want to like make this point at something else, it just works right away. I don't have to pay for every time some other DNS system requests like an update for it. Don't have to, pay for that. Whereas for these ACM ones, I do. And I'm gonna want to change these away from 60 seconds pretty shortly. It's just this one right here. I did notice that my my charge, so yesterday morning, it was at 52 cents for the entire month, which of course, today is the first month. So that was the end of the month, 52 cents. By the end of yesterday, it had gone up to over $1. That the only things that I was doing that cost money was the DNS stuff. So because like creating a certificate is free, I'm doing a public certificate. It's not great. It's not great at all. So that's something to be aware of, is that it can act like 60 seconds is way too short of a time. So I want to change this. I think we're good now. I think I'm willing to pay like a couple more dollars, because that seems to be what it is, like $1 per day extra for that. I'm willing to pay those just for like maybe today, as we get this set up, and then maybe switch it back. But I don't actually know if there's a reason to like keep it. Actually, you know what? This is a config. We can change this right now. So I want to do Pulumi config. So we're looking at this domain TTL. So I want to set domain TTL to, what am I thinking of? I want minimum 1 hour, maybe 24 hours. So what are the pros and cons to that? If I were doing a 1 hour, that's 1/60th of the charge. So it won't be another $1 a day. It'll be like a penny a day or so. Just so another like 30 cents a month. That'll bring me up to like 80 cents. Not terrible. I could do like 24 hours. That would mean that any DNS changes I make to that certificate wouldn't really take hold for another 24 hours, which is dangerous because that potentially means that I could be down for 24 hours. So let's set it to 1 hour to begin with. So it's 60 seconds times, let me just grab a calculator. No, that's a calendar. I want 60 seconds times 60. That's minutes times, would it be 60 for hours? No, this is too much. I'm just gonna ask Google. Google is a good one to ask. Okay, so we're gonna do 1 hour seconds. 3,600. Yeah, I somehow got way okay. Morning math is not good. My morning math is not good. Okay. So let's set you to that. All right, so if I do a Pulumi up, it is changing the TTL for that, so I'm just going to say go ahead and do that. In the meantime, while this is all deploying out and updating that TTL, let's take a look at what I get when I navigate to brooksbuilds.com or www.brooksbuilds.com. I get this. So we have an access denied error. So this error is actually coming from Cloudfront. It's attempting to reach into the S3 bucket and grab a the index.html file. I went ahead and did a manual upload of the files into that bucket. We can figure out a automated way to do that later. And this is what we get, which is not great. So we're gonna need some kind of policy somewhere, and I need to figure out exactly where that is. So I don't know if I put that on CloudFront, or if I put that on S3, or if I do that on both. So looking at the edit of the CloudFront, oh, there's the S3 bucket access. Use a CloudFront origin access to access the S3 bucket. Okay, so it's set to don't use that right now. Yes, use OAI, origin access identity. Bucket can restrict access to only CloudFront. So I want to set that. Okay, but that's a setting in CloudFront that I have to do. So somewhere in here, this was in the origins. The CloudFront custom origin configuration. If an S3 origin is required, use S3 origin config instead. The CloudFront S3 origin config information. Okay, so this might be the way to go. What are you? You are a object. Origin access identity. So the CloudFront origin access identity to associate with the origin, and then that's it. And that's a string. So if I manually say yes, okay, it asks for the origin access identity. I apparently have one, which I named allowing CloudFront to access the S3 bucket without making it public. Or that is someone else's. Where does that... Oh, and I would love it to update the bucket policy too, but I don't know if Pulumi is going to do that for me. Yeah, there's nothing else in here. So I'll probably have to update the bucket policy to also allow this in. But okay, origin access identity. I need to go find this specific one and go with that. So let's start by heading to Pulumi's website and see what they suggest for this. All right, what are they coming from in their, oh, they're doing the S3 origin config, origin access identity slash Cloudfront slash whatever. So that's clearly a custom one. If I click on create a new one, name your new origin access identity. Where can I go list them? Oh, under securities, there's origin access identities. Okay, so the name I did was allowing Cloudfront to access the X3 bucket without making it public. This is a previous one that I had created. I don't see like a special name for it. I have an ID. I wonder if I need to grab the ID from this. Is that the ID? I mean, I can't imagine it's the special full name. I think it's going to look like the other thing. Go back to the distribution. I mean, it's literally when I go to select something, it's literally allowing Cloudfront to access. Okay, that's interesting. So I can do a get on this, maybe. Here's this get origin access identity. Okay, and then I pass it in the ID for this. Now I do have the ID here. So I can go to origin access identities, get the ID. I can add this in as a config. I don't think that these IDs are secret. So I think this can be just a public config. There is a possibility for me to create secret configs which are encrypted. But they're much more of a pain to get out. Okay, let's try. Or I could create a new one. And I could delete this one. Maybe let's do that. Let's delete this one. So delete you. Okay, I need to create a new origin access identity. Probably up here. And apparently there's only a... Oh, so that was the comment. So the comment is going to be access S3. I'll just say access S3 for this. That gives me use. Then the origin access identity. So you need this to be something. Hello, Uncle Scientist. So I stopped listening at the end of your stream. Did you get your pagination down? I guess pagination is wrong. That's not technically what it is. Like paging up and down by the correct number of lines. You're more relaxed now that you don't have to think on the fly. Oh, and hold on just 1 second. Chiroptical rating with a party of 4. Welcome, Chiroptical and viewers. How y'all doing today? And what was your stream about? Uncle Scientist, okay, so you finished your stream and then you figured it out like instantaneously after that. I totally understand what that means. That's happened to me a few times. So yeah, that's a great way to begin the next stream, right? With the answer already there. You're writing merge sort in a functional style in Rust. Oh, that must have been interesting and fun. Did he get it done? Or is there still like a little bit left? You finished the merge function. Awesome. That's great. If I remember correctly, merge sort is fun. You just need the divide and conquer part. Okay. Well, okay. And it needs tests. It's been a long time since I've used merge sort, like manually. I don't remember the algorithm off the top of my head. I'd have to go and like look that up and sort of like see where we're going with it. But that is awesome. Congratulations on getting like the hard part of it done. Let's see. What we are working on is it's not Rust code today. It's setting up for deploying Rust code. So I have this platform web sort of like section to my app here, and this is inside of my dist. I have our index.html, I have the auto-generated JavaScript, and our compiled WASM. This is a web app created with u.rs and Rust. Okay, you sort to equally sized subarrays and then merge them together. That makes sense. So yeah, as long as you can like create the two equally sized arrays, then you're fine. Okay, so what we're doing is the infrastructure part of it. So controlling AWS to set up deployments. So something that I've just learned throughout, being a developer is that when we start a project, that's when you set up all the deployment stuff. That's when you make sure that everything is working as expected on that end, because it's a terrible thing to get to the end of a project and then realize that you can't deploy it, or that deploying it breaks it and you made an assumption about how deployment will work. You should just deploy all the time, constantly. And then if something breaks, right away and you can fix it earlier. So we are using the deployment for this web app is going to be the code goes on to S3. Then I have Cloudfront on AWS that reads from S3 and then creates a distribution across their cheapest network, which is United States or North America, United States, Canada, Mexico, and then also Europe plus Israel, which is interesting. So that there's also groups across there. That's where it's going to be faster to access this web app from. Everywhere else is more expensive, so therefore we're ignoring it for right now. We're using a system called Pulumi, which is an infrastructure as code system. It basically, if you're familiar with something called Terraform, or if you've heard of it, it basically creates that kind of stuff behind the scenes and then implements it. So Pulumi allows us to write with different languages. Rust, unfortunately, is not supported, so we are with TypeScript. How am I liking Pulumi so far? There's definitely caveats to it, but I like it a lot so far. I am more happy to introduce this, or I've been introducing it to my day job, than just something straight up like Terraform, because it would be developers working on it, and working in the language context is a lot more familiar and less scary to us developers. So far I've liked it. I had one issue yesterday, which was really nasty, and I had to look up, and it took me a while to figure out. Basically, it got into a state where it was trying to, it's basically said okay, you're in a weird state. Let's just delete everything and then recreate it all again. And everything was fine. It was deleting everything, but then it tried to delete the certificate. Sorry, this certificate before it deleted the Cloudfront distribution, which is illegal because that certificate is referenced in here. And so AWS was returning and saying, nope, can't do that. Can't do that. You got to wait. And so it was just hanging. So I don't know what to do. And so I had to figure out a way to tell it, no, you've already deleted it. Just go forward and do it. And that eventually was able to get it going. Have I used it well? I've used it for 6 months or so, but I'm not using it every day a lot. Just a little bit every once in a while. So I wouldn't necessarily say that I know it super well yet. I have had some people request that I create a tutorial on using something like Pulumi to deploy our applications. And eventually I will, once I get to the point where I'm confident that what I'm going to teach is actually a good practice. I know what I'm doing. Maybe. All right. So, what we're trying to do right now is solve this problem. So we have brooksbuilds.com. This is pointing. I have a certificate, so I can do HTTPS. However, you can see that there's an access denied. So Cloudfront isn't allowed to reach in and grab the files from S3. Thank you again, Caroptical, for the raid. Glad you had a good stream, and have a great rest of your day. So what we need to do is figure out how to give access to S3 from CloudFront. So looking at on another window, and I'm not showing it because like there's just too easy to like expose the wrong things. I've got CloudFront up, and apparently I need to do something called creating an origin access identity. And this is going to allow me to keep my S3 bucket private, and then CloudFront is going to be the only public thing in it. Where's my mouse? There you are. And so here this is. I've now told it to create this origin access identity. I'm naming it access S3, and I'm adding in here. Okay, so this is like one side of it. I can, at this point, run a Pulumi up. Total Eclipse, hello. What's good? So far this is good. We'll see if we run into any major sort of like breakages here, but so far it's working decently smoothly. Anytime it's like cloud configuration is always sort of like one of those like because I'm not like a master at it yet. It's one of those like, well, we'll see. Especially with AWS, it has so many features, so many options. It's easy to like go down the wrong path. And how are you? Heard it's some sort of auth issue with deleting the cert or something. Yeah, I didn't have an auth issue. It was more of what is it called? A race condition type thing. It was attempting to delete the cert before it deleted the CloudFront distribution, which is unfortunate because the cert was attached to the CloudFront distribution. So I needed it to do the other way around. And when I then went into the code and told it like, hey, do it in this order, and it still didn't like try. It still was like, no, I'm gonna wait until that's done. So I needed to basically tell it to stop. Like then I canceled it and restarted again. And it's like, oh, hey, you had a pending delete. So before I go ahead and look at your code to like figure out what order I want to do this in, I'm just gonna go ahead and finish the pending thing. I'm like, stop doing that. No. Don't finish the pending thing. So there apparently is a way that you can do like an stack export. So I can export all of the memory and everything else that Pulumi thinks is happening. That exports it as a JSON object. I then go in and say, hey, all the pending stuff, yeah, you're just an empty array. You don't have anything that you're doing. And then I take that JSON object and I re-import it back into Pulumi and say, here you go. Here's all your like memory. Like I've just, yeah, basically like I used JQ. I used JQ, I think is what it's called, which is a JSON parsing library for the command line. It was a fairly, see if I can create a new. So let's see. It was, I want to do a Pulumi export. There it is. Okay. So it was a Pulumi stack export. And then I do that. That takes it, that creates a JSON object for me and just returns that to standard out. I pipe that into JQ, and then told it, oh, this thing. So deployment, pending operations. You are an empty array. Like, remove all the pending operations from this. I then take that output and then pipe it into a Pulumi stack import, and then tell it to come from standard in. So basically, I just did a little bit of surgery in its, in its brain, and told it like, hey, forget everything that you were doing, and then I basically just have it run again, and then that worked. Okay, so this updated, so I should now be able to come into my side, see an access origin identity. So I see the new one that I created here, and if I go to Cloudfront distribution origins, I also see that that's attached now. So S3 bucket access is now set, and it has this origin access identity. But there's this like bucket policy. I need to update the bucket policy manually to tell it to allow this thing in. Okay, so that's the next thing, is I need to tell this. Here's my platform bucket. So I need to tell it. So I need a bucket policy. Do I do that when I create the bucket, or is that like an attachment afterwards? Let's find out. So we want to go to S3. Okay, so here's bucket. Oh, and here's a bucket policy. So it's probably this one. Attaches a policy to an S3 bucket resource. Excellent. So allow access from another account policy document. I can get a policy document, or I can probably create one. Oh, so this one is create. Okay, so this one first gets a policy document from AWS. And then this one is the actual attachment of it. Okay, so I first need to create a policy for this. Wait, I thought it was something else. It's a policy document. It's a string or policy document. Oh, is that under IAM? That might be under IAM. So there's policy. So it's like allow. Okay, so before I do this, like one of the things that I've noticed is that using something like Pulumi makes it a little bit easier to use, AWS, but also using something like Pulumi as opposed to some automated, like just do everything for you. You do kind of need to like understand what's happening and how it works. That's where I'm running into right now. It's like, well, how does this entire policy thing actually work? Before when I did it, I just sort of like copied and pasted some stuff in. So I actually need to like learn this now. What I want to do is go to the AWS documentation. So it's going to be AWS S3 policy for Cloudfront. And I guess it's specifically OAI. Okay, create a special CloudFront user called an origin access identity. So we've done that. We have that. Configure your S3 bucket permissions so that CloudFront can use the OAI to access the files in your bucket and serve them to your users. Make sure that users can't use a direct URL to the S3 bucket to access a file there, which is like so far it's private by default in the buckets. That's fine. Okay, so granting OAI permission to read files in your Amazon S3 bucket. When you create an OAI or add one to a distribution with a CloudFront console, you can automatically update the S3. Well, through the console, I can automatically update, but I'm not on the console, so I have to do this manually. Alternatively, you can choose to manually update or create the bucket policy. Let's see. So using put bucket policy in the Amazon S3 API. Yes, I know I could do that. They keep on wanting me to do this through the console and have it automatically happen. Specify the correct OAI as the principal in the policy. Give the OAI the permissions it needs to access objects on behalf of viewers. To specify an OAI as the principal in the Amazon S3 bucket policy, use the OAI's Amazon resource name, which includes the OAI's ID. So okay, that's great. Can I have a full Amazon S3 bucket policy examples? Okay. The following example allows OAI to read objects in a specified bucket. This is a web app, and it's not storing anything in there, so read-only should be fine. So I think this looks fine. I think what we were looking at, so like statement, effect, principle, action, I think what we were seeing was that this is where we create this policy, where then we would have something like all of this stuff. Okay, nice. The path is not required. So I can create this using IAM policy. Okay, so, and then we'll attach it later. So I create our, I can do this down here. So here's my origin access identity. Then I'm going to create my, our Brooks builds, S3 bucket, policy. So I want IAM policy. This is going to be the we're using TypeScript for this, so I should get at least some helpful typings. Policy. So the policy document, this is a JSON formatted string. This is required, but or I could do this. So like we have statement, version, all that fun stuff. So then looking at this, here's my example. So if I want a version, it's this thing. Then an ID, so policy for Cloudfront private content. Then we have statement, which looks like it's an array. Yeah, definitely an array of policy statements. Okay, so then it's basically, I mean, this reminds me of sort of like chaining in old school firewall setup for Linux systems, where we're going to say like, okay, allow this from this thing. Yeah. All right, so effect is allow. And, oh, okay, I already knows what that is. Okay, allow principal. So then principal. Now, what do you want this to be? You want this to be a specific IAM principal. So I can't. Oh, this is an object. Okay, so an object, and then, so, AWS federated or service. This would be AWS as access. And then you are looking for a string of some kind. And I want this origin access identity. Like that. Can I do like an a pre-generated ARN for use in S3 bucket policies. Okay, that sounds like what this is. Then an action. Okay, so I want it to get the object. So action is... Oh, you're either just a string or you're an array of strings. And so I want this to be S3 get object. And then resource. And resource is also a string or an array of strings. And so I noticed, okay, this is the bucket and then /star. So I actually want this to be a string template. So I can use this bucket. I can do the ARN. The ARN of the bucket will be a format ARN AWS S3 bucket name. ARN AWS. Oh, that seems correct. But then I want to append onto this a / star so it can get everything inside of it. Okay. This next one allows you to read and write objects. So the big thing for me is I do not want Cloudfront to be able to write back into this. This is our actual like deployment code. I want this to be read only. Okay, so then this is like the bare minimum. I now want to attach this to our S3. So that's going to be const Brooks builds S3. I guess I can just call this like bucket policy attachment. We don't often need like the results, but like Pulumi returns something that I can use that later, or I can like return it maybe to sort of like see what it is. The real sort of like actions happen when I actually create this. So new AWS S3. Okay, so I want a bucket policy. Create a bucket policy resource. The given. Okay, so bucket policy. So attach Cloudfront OIM to S3. Okay, so this needs the bucket itself. You are looking for just a string. So I want this one. Dot probably either the ARN and then policy, the text of the policy. Okay, then that's going to be this thing. Oh, this is the formatted JSON string. Okay, perfect. Okay, so that seems to work. So if I don't do anything else, we just deploy this now. To Pulumi up. It looks as the difference, and it's seeing like, hey, the only new things that are happening is we're going to create a policy and we're going to create a bucket policy here. Let's go ahead and run that. Malform policy document. Policy should not specify a principal. Policy should not form a principal, or it should not specify a principal. Interesting. So it doesn't like this. But I definitely want it to form a principal here. So let's look through some more documentation to see how Pulumi. Maybe there's more examples in S3. So bucket policy was not bucket policy was just not creating a policy but getting one. Well, just creating a bucket. Maybe there's an example here. So that's just creating a bucket. Oh, interesting. So they actually read from a file the policy.json document as opposed to creating one. That's interesting. Also not what I want to use. I'm just looking through all of these to see if any of them they create a policy separate. Okay, here it is. Here's a policy. So new AWS IAM policy, replication policy. That's interesting. It doesn't. Oh, they do the weird Pulumi interpolate thing. But okay, they do not have a principle in here. Interesting. Okay. I think also I can go to S3 and tell it to create a policy for this this bucket. I think that's under permissions. Yeah, okay, so bucket policy. I can do edit. They have this entire like statement generator thing. All right, so what? Back to you. You have this ID, so your statement. Huh. They have an SID as opposed to just an ID. But then they definitely have a principle in here. So what's an SID? That's too bad that it's not showing me with the policy document type here. Can I search for policy document? Wolfers Dad, hello. This is the same place I just was. So, no. Oh wait, no, it's slightly different. This is a little bit too permissive though. That's not really helpful. I'm doing good. Trying to figure out this like policy thing with AWS, which is like this is one of the more confusing things that I've run into that I don't really find great. I find it's difficult for me to find good documentation on it, and that might be because I don't know the right search statements to search for, and so I'm not getting the right resources. But if I were to create this with a policy generator on the AWS console, it has something called an SID. So let's do S3 bucket policy. What is an SID? You can provide an optional identifier SID statement ID for the policy statement. You can... Okay, so maybe I want this to be an SID as opposed to an ID. You don't even have an ID. Okay, what if I just remove you? Set statement. Okay, so we have version 2.10.17. That's right. Statement is an array of objects, and then we would have the SID inside of here. And then we have principal. Okay, so principal. Choose a service. So this would be Cloudfront. I want to get object. Huh, I don't know. Oh no. Okay, Cloudfront wouldn't be it would be S3. All services. S3. I want to get object. Add a resource. S3 resource type object. Oh yeah, then they have to replace like bucket name and object name to be like the real things. That would be this. Okay, so under resource, that's what this is. I have my platform front end bucket ARN, which then gives me the bucket name. So it's like ARN AWS S3 : A, and then a /star at the end. So that's my resource. So this is what this thing is allowed to get, right? Okay. How do I add a principal? I don't even see a principal in here. I just see like, okay, statements. Because that's a resource add a condition, an action get object. I've done that. It'd be all conditions, like anybody can get it as long as it's coming from whatever this is. Okay, so empty object principle. Yes, I know. I want you to help me set this up. GUI. So this one we have like AWS. And you need to be a string, maybe? The principal key AWS. Okay, so I wonder if just removing the ID would make this work a little bit better. Resource is that. Action is get object. Okay, so I think then principal is this thing. Well, let's try it again. And let's see if this also fails. If it does fail, I'd wonder, is this... Okay, so Pulumi thinks it's going to be okay. Error creating IAM policy, malform policy document should not specify a principal. I wonder if it's because like it thinks it's an IAM policy. And I specifically want it to be a different policy. But I don't know how to create that otherwise. Okay. We can do the Pulumi interpolation that we saw otherwise. So let's see. Okay, policy here needs to be a string or a policy document. So this would be a Pulumi interpolate is similar to concat but designed to be used as a tagged template expression. So something like this. Pulumi.interpolate space and then a template string, and then I can just use stuff inside of it and it creates an output. So interpolate. This has always been so fascinating to see like this work in JavaScript. I remember the first time I saw this was way back in CoffeeScript, which was a thing. All right, so back to here. Our example, we're gonna copy you and put you inside of here. So, all right. Version. This is the version of the document. That's static, and this obviously hasn't changed in a long time. An ID. So policy for Cloudfront private content. So I think we can set this to be whatever I want. Interesting. Okay, this is an ID here, but apparently I can do an SID inside of statement, which is interesting. So I can do another SID here. And then this is going to be allow Cloudfront access to S3. It's really private S3. Effect allow principal. Okay, so I need my own thing here. And it needs to look like this. So this is going to be origin access identity. I am ARN, which then looks exactly like that. Action, I just want to get object. I don't want to put object. Resource, okay, so then this is going to be the bucket. So get everything inside of the bucket. Oh, and I think I need you to be quoted. Like that. Okay, so this now manually creates it, not going through their sort of builder object. And then we take this policy and I attach it here. Let's see if this works any better. The bucket policy has a problem. Policy contains an invalid JSON policy. Exam values at policy.policy. Okay. Cool. Policy, you need to be a string. Maybe what I really want to do is just take you and just put you directly inside of here. Actually, you know what I really want to do? Keep this separated out. Do that. All right, let's see if that works. Invalid Amazon S3 ARN unknown resource type. I believe that's actually the name of the bucket. Let me double check here. So the name of the bucket is platform front end production with this just long string. But that's okay. That's apparently not the correct type of ARN. So not that one. Don't think I want the bucket domain name. ID maybe? Okay, so what if I choose ID? Um, unknown resource type, ARN, AWS S3 platform. Okay, so this is the resource type. It's the same thing here. Going back to our example, it wants this to be resource like ARN colon AWS colon S3 colon 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 bucket name. Okay, so what if I do something like this? We just take ARN AWS S3 colon 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 and just put the bucket name inside of here. So this is the platform front end bucket dot bucket. Okay, so ARN AWS S3 platform front end production. Invalid ARN. I guess like, okay, if I go into this bucket and I grab the ARN directly from this, where is the ARN? Properties, okay. ARN colon AWS colon S3 colon 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 platform front end production with long numbers. Unknown resource type. I wonder if it's invalid ARN caused by. Invalid Amazon S3 ARN. So we have a resource. So we have S3 get object. Our principal is the origin access identity that Cloudfront is attached to. And then the resource is I want everything in this bucket to gain access to that. I wonder if I need to change this, like to not have dashes or something. Underscores maybe? Then side of here, let's try. Okay, so this is also replacing the bucket name too. But okay, so same exact problem. Invalid bucket name. Oh, this one didn't even tell me what that bucket name is. sort of like to see what it thinks this is, I can... Let's not do that. Is the problem... Okay, no, this is just creating a policy document here. I can export this. And then this is going to show up in my terminal. So I can make sure it looks at least like somewhat correct. So let's try this again, but now exporting that and not attempting to attach it to the S3 bucket. Okay, I'm going to get this output. Go ahead, yes. Okay, so it doesn't like my change. Here, maybe take it back until... Okay, so here we can see resource, Aaron, AWS. So is that... Okay, I want to compare this to Aaron, AWS S3, Aaron, AWS S3, : doc example bucket, and then this has like another AWS, Aaron, AWS S3. Oh, look at that. That's like double. Oh, that's not right. I have this twice in here. Okay, I removed that. Maybe you'll be happier? Okay, so it's just going to create that policy. Failed, invalid ARN, unknown resource type, ARN AWS S3, platform front end production, /* unknown resource type. Okay, I wonder if like there's a different error. So like AWS S3 bucket policy resource unknown unknown type. Is there a way to retrieve a list of all current resource types? Not sure. Flint, yes, I saw that, and I did respond to you earlier, and then I saw you respond again to me. I didn't know if you wanted me to respond here on stream, so I was gonna just wait until later. So let me know if you want, and I can speak my It's fine. All right, so how much context is okay to talk about? Let me pull up Discord so I can read the thing. All right, so context. Do you think it'll cause problems Yeah, so this is, without giving too much away, the situation is a very common one that's happening. Commute is far. Okay, so like Flint, your commute is really far from your house to your place of work, and you want to be able to like, you want to mention that this is affecting your ability to do work. The only real sort of like unknown in this is that you're new to this company, you're new to this organization, and therefore still in the like probably something like a 90-day probationary period, which companies often use as sort of like a trial period, because then it's not easy to fire somebody, but it is easy to just not renew a contract. And so that's often what they do, is like the probationary period is really just like a contract that needs to be actively renewed at the end of the period. Otherwise, it just expires and the person is no longer employed. That's like, people do that because then they don't have to fire somebody. It's like, I don't know. I'm not super big on like that type of thing. Just make the people fire somebody. It's hard. It's supposed to be hard. Do it anyways. Anyways, so you don't want to stir things up. Totally understand. So you mentioned during your retro that, hey, this is affecting my performance. And now it's like, oh God, did I say something wrong? Did I, am I going to get into trouble? So in most companies, no, this will not cause you to get into trouble just by saying my commute is really long. That being said, there are some caveats to this. If you have a really toxic company, and they don't care about you as an individual and like only care about just like themselves or power dynamics or something else, that could cause issues, but probably not like that. That's probably not going to be something that would like cause your you to lose your job at the end of the period. It may trigger a conversation where they say, figure it out. Team lead is a hardcore believer in work from home. So it sounds to me like what you should do is work on your relationship with your team lead. This is something that I recommend to everyone who gets a job. Work from office. Sorry, I missed that. I missed the O and I turned it into an H. Sorry about that. Okay, so hardcore believer in work from office. So this might trigger a conversation about like what you really want and what is best for the team, what is best for the you, and what is best for the clients and all that fun stuff. It's gonna be a fun conversation. Basically, it's oh, do I have the book down here? I do not have the book down here. It's gonna be a crucial conversation. So what I would recommend is just, I would recommend initiating this conversation with your team lead. Don't wait for them to decide to talk about it. And then this comes with like a method of a communication style, or like it's not really a style. It's more of like, this is, I don't know if I can say like it's a science of communication, but it's really part of, you want to control the message. You want to control how people receive that message and then what they really think about it. And as long as you are waiting for them to react, you said your piece, it's up to them now to interpret it and sort of like internalize it and like make assumptions based upon it. You can control what assumptions are made by having more conversations. Like I like to say to other people that I'm mentoring, just use more words. Um, and that way you can control what they feel, find out what they're feeling sooner than later, and maybe do something about it. A part of you feels good about what you said, and that's the thing, is you shouldn't apologize for it. I wouldn't go in apologizing, because that sets the wrong tone. What you should really go in for is something like a negotiation. This is something that's actually happening, but I want to figure out something that's like best. So also go in with an open attitude, because that's going to help like control the emotions that are happening at the same time. This is what I mean by like crucial conversations can get very tense and high emotions, and it's very like it can be rough. So you are okay with a hybrid schedule, and that's what you want. And so when you go into this conversation with them, just remind yourself what you really want, because it's very easy to start a conversation with them and then change your goals subconsciously to, I want to win this argument. And then the next thing is like, you're not getting what you want anymore. You're attacking each other and bad things happen. So just remind yourself what you really want. And then after that, safety is next. It's like psychological safety in that conversation. If your team lead starts making you feel unsafe, you're going to attack him. You need to rebuild the safety before you can continue. And if you accidentally make it unsafe for your team lead, then the same thing happens. So keep an eye out for like defensiveness. If like any like defensive posture, any defensive words start being used, stop the conversation and switch to building safety. What do I mean about the safety thing? So what I mean about that is, if somebody starts using defensive things, well, I'm not saying that, or like, it's like, I think like, best type of worker, I'm worried about this type of thing. They switch to defensive posture. If they're defending themselves, that means they believe that they're under attack, and under attack is a safety thing. And so this is something called psychological safety. It's not physical safety. They're not afraid for their physical being. They're just something in their brain is like scared. And that is, yeah, exactly, Homeless. They need you as bad as you need them. But like these communication things are like really important. And like our lizard brains, that's what I like to call like the 10,000 plus year old like caveman part of us that are, I guess it would be older than 10,000 years. But that's the part of us that like, oh, something is attacking us. Let's just hit it with a hammer, and make the problem go away, or let's just go and run and hide. Either way, not good for a modern day communication. So that's what I mean by safety. Is safety as like feeling the ability to put out what you want to say and not feel that you're going to be attacked for it, not feel that what you're going to say is going to be weaponized against you. And if you don't have that needs to be built up first. And so maybe you can't initiate the conversation right away if you don't have that relationship. Build that relationship first. All those other things might be things that your team lead could come up with negotiations. So, for example, you're sitting next to the printer. The printer is loud. The printer is going on a lot. If your team lead offers to move you to a private office that's far, a private area farther away from the office, farther away from the printer, would that be okay? Would that solve a lot of your problems? If you understand and know that, you can bring that up as part of your communication. Other things, could you go off and like work at a cafe some part of the day? or go and like run away and like, hide in a cute, some kind of like nook that you found. Those are different like options. Let's see. That's what I would recommend. If you want to do any emergency reading in preparation for this conversation, the book Crucial Conversations is what I would recommend. Let me find it. This is it. I'm sending this to you in Discord. And then for any of you watching, let me also post it into chat. There it goes. So, something of what you're saying, and this is like really fascinating and like really opens things up, is what you say that you want, which is this fixed hybrid schedule, is a strategy. It's a strategy to get at what you really want behind the scenes. So, if you figure out what you really want, that having a hybrid schedule would solve, then that opens up for a negotiation and having like both parties get what they want, and then everyone can be happy. So that's my recommendation, is at least read a little bit of that book. I don't know if there are free versions online, or there's like some way to get access to text without necessarily purchasing it, but I'm not going to go find those out for you. I own this book 3 times. I own the audiobook, a Kindle copy, and a physical copy. It's one of my favorite leadership sort of like skill books. And let's see. And the psychological safety is like a big one too. And then that's pretty much it. And then going in and remember that there is definitely a way to get what you want. It's absolutely possible. And having these crucial conversations, there's some evidence, but I don't remember the studies, so like it's very hard for me to just say like, hey, it is guaranteed. But I've heard of studies before, and I just don't remember them anymore, so I'm sorry about that. That do state that the more crucial conversations we're willing to just jump into, the better chance of us getting what we really want in life. So if you're just passively watching this, highly recommended you also sort of like at least read, maybe not read the book, but like be aware that like jumping into these is good for us, even though it's painful. These suck. I hate crucial conversations, and I love them at the same time. It's a love-hate relationship. All right, Flint, good luck. Deep breaths for it. All your anti-stress, whatever things you do to like sort of like keep yourself calm and able to move forward. Always ask yourself, what's the worst that could possibly happen? And if it's not dying, or like having some kind of like permanent injury, then it's something you can recover from, and you will be everything will be okay. And that's sometimes what I ask myself before I go into these conversations, and because of that, everything's been fine. So I do have to head off to the rest of my day. So for those of you who have fun conversations coming up today, good luck with them. Good luck with your Friday. Otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. I'll be back on Sunday. We're going to play some Screeps. some back into like actual Rest code. And I didn't really finish with the S3 thing. So we're gonna have to figure that out on Monday. So with that, have a good one. See you next time. Bye.